And to get us some perspective, we are being joined by Dr. Volker Stanzel, former German ambassador to China and Japan. He joins us live from Berlin. Welcome to the broadcast, Mr. Stanzel.
Invitation.
You're joining us from Berlin. Let's first talk about Europe. While European leaders have congratulated Trump on his election victory, France's message has come with caution that it is time Europe prepares to defend its interests in the wake of the new administration. Do you agree?
If you watch how the first presidency of Donald Trump went along and what it did and did not for us Europeans, I think indeed it is high time that Europe prepares for the second Trump presidency, and President Macron's ideas here, I think, are very welcome.
Also, when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia war, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was one of the first to congratulate Donald Trump. He spoke about a victory plan. How optimistic are you about this victory plan being the same as Donald Trump's, given he's saying that he can solve the war in the span of 24 hours?
I assume that Donald Trump hadn't heard about the victory plan's contents before, so he must have been somewhat surprised and unprepared to discuss it in comparison to what he himself is planning. Now, he has said, as you have quoted him, that he would finish the war in Ukraine within a day, like other wars as well. But in which way, he has not told us so far.
Right. If I could quickly quote a report by Reuters. This came out in June, sir, and it said it was actually quoting two top advisors to Donald Trump. They were talking about a proposed plan that would cease military aid to Ukraine unless it agrees to hold peace negotiations with Russia.
Yes, and there are other authors, scholars who have proposed similar ideas in the past without any signal that Zelensky or other countries who supported Ukraine think this is a sensible idea. So far, Russia has never accepted any notion on how to come to peace, except if Ukraine and the supporters of Ukraine accept the Russian original idea how to come to peace, which is, if you translate it into reality, would be the same as surrendering.
Right, but given that in the last 24 hours, Kremlin has already said that it is ready to hold talks with Washington, and the Ukraine president has said that he wants to talk about the victory plan with Donald Trump. Don't you think Donald Trump could actually create a table where both come together?
Let's see. First of all, Donald Trump will have to listen to Zelensky's idea with his peace plan, and then he will talk with his advisors about it and come to a judgment, and then maybe he will approach Putin. Now, as far as Putin's concerned, he has said many times that he's ready to talk, ready to come to the negotiating table if Ukraine first accepts what is the precondition set by Putin himself many times, and his spokesmen have said it also. Russian scholars have put it in writing. There is a large gap between what we know about Zelensky's peace plan, and you know it too, of course, which is very far away from surrendering, which means that Russia would have to return the parts of Ukraine it has occupied now and conquered so far, while Ukraine would be ready to negotiate those territories Russia has occupied early on, meaning mainly the Crimean Peninsula. Yeah. There is a very wide gap between the ideas of both sides. Another point, of course, is NATO membership and presumably also EU membership for Ukraine. This is for Ukraine a demand on which they think their survival depends on. And one can understand that, because had NATO in 2008 agreed to the notion of Ukraine joining NATO, presumably there would have not been the attack of February of 2022 by Russia against Ukraine. So Ukraine has learned that it needs partners who are reliable. And that is why it feels it needs to join NATO. This, of course, is a no-go for Putin. No, Trump indeed has a long way to go to bring the two together to one table.
All right, let's talk about the other peace plan for Israel's conflict with the Palestinians. We're also hearing that it will be likely back on the table once Donald Trump returns to the White House. That'll happen only in January. Your thoughts?
Well, in the past, the present government in Israel has always refused the two-state solution, a solution which in the early 1990s, 1992, was on the table in Oslo, and to which at that time the Israeli government had agreed. But then there came problems in the negotiations with the Palestinians, and we had a new intifada beginning, and it all went to nothing. So now we have both sides, both the Palestinians and the Israelis, very skeptical about this two-state solution. But everybody knows at the same time, without giving the Palestinians their own state, and without the Israelis accepting that Palestinians will have a sovereign state on the territory of what is now the West Bank and probably also Gaza, without that, there will be no peace. So again, it's a tall order for Donald Trump to convince both parties, the Palestinians and the Israelis, that they must make a sensible step towards a two-state solution. And of course, the Palestinians will only agree to such a solution if they can be sure that there will be guaranteed to be a sovereign state. And Israel will only agree to it if it can be fairly safe that its security will not be compromised by a Palestinian state, where maybe many people say they want a Palestinian state, as they say nowadays, from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River all the way to the Mediterranean, which would mean annihilation of Israel. So again, there is a long way to go for both sides. What I think is encouraging is that the Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, for example, have not refused outright what Donald Trump has said and proposed, but that they are ready to bring some reason into the negotiations. That is very important, I think.
All right, Dr. Stansel, thank you so much for all those insights. Good to speak to you.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.